Hello, my name is Nick, and I'm going to respond to Sheaf's thoughts on The Force Unleashed. Sheaf talks to the YouTube critic that mainly focuses on Marvel and Star Wars content. He also has made videos on The Flash TV show, which is pretty good, although his best video is known as Why Plot Matters, The Last Jedi vs. Andor. That being said, an issue with Sheaf is some of his arguments are in bad faith, and this video I'm responding to is a good example of this. 9 months ago or longer, he made a video about The Force Unleashed, which was a segment of a bigger video by another YouTuber named Zanyverse. Sheaf claims that this game's story is bad, and I'm going to be looking at his arguments as to why.
Hey fellas, so listen, my good pal Zany asked me if I wanted to be in one of his videos, and he told me he's doing this big project talking about games that released in 2008, which naturally, of course, meant that when I agreed to it, I ended up with The Force Unleashed, because of course, I'm the Star Wars guy. No, in actuality, I chose this game because I think it's really, really bad, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. So now I'm gonna explain to all of you why I think that is in about, say, 5 to 7 minutes. And what I aim to accomplish here is to explain how the story of this game doesn't really make any sense when you stop to think about it, nor does it fit with the overall canon. And yes, I know that this game came out before the new Disney canon, but I'm aiming higher than that. I'm talking about the movies themselves that this game fucks with. As far as gameplay mechanics and the like, that's not really my area of expertise, and I don't think I could give an objective analysis on that anyway, since I played this game on the Wii when I was a kid, and that's probably the shittiest system you could possibly experience this game on.
This is a very strange thing to do in a video game review, especially when somebody else in the Zanyverse video goes over the quality of both gameplay and story. I know Sheaf said gameplay is not his area of knowledge, but this does not excuse the review not focusing on it for a few reasons. Like first, he did not have to make the video if he is up for reviewing a video game. Second, this is a tonal whiplash where the rest of the video, where we had people who gave the games they reviewed a more in-depth look at both aspects of the game. And third, it kind of sucks that a really nostalgic game for many people was reviewed by a wannabe southpaw that clearly does not care to basically talk about the meat of the game. The Force Unleashed is basically a Star Wars hack and slash, the equivalent to the classic God of War or Devil May Cry games. Even if the story was as bad as you say, the main focus is very clearly on the gameplay and level design, something that the viewers of the video are now missing out on it. It's like if you had to critique a dish at a restaurant with steak and french fries and you only complain about fries but don't eat the steak. With that being said, let's go into your arguments as to why the story is bad.
If any of you out there are familiar with my work, then you probably know that I have a passing disdain for one such show called Obi-Wan Kenobi 2022. One of my biggest criticisms of that show is that the very premise relies on the Empire finding out that Bail Organa is actually secretly in contact with a Jedi in hiding, and not just any old Jedi, but the most wanted man in the entire galaxy, with whom Darth Vader himself has a very personal bone to pick. Information like that making its way over to the Empire would surely spell doom for Bail and his entire family, and that kind of fucks with, Star Wars. So then would it surprise you to find out that Kenobi isn't the first thing to mess up this little piece of continuity? It was actually done here first.
I don't know if you ever watched the OT, but if you did, there is no mention of Bail Organa at all. All that was said was that in the beginning of the video, Vader just recently finds out that Leia is part of the Rebel Alliance. The only argument I could even see from this is that Leia is the adopted daughter of Bail, but that is an entire can of worms that the Empire would have to deal with when they have no solid evidence. Not until A New Hope did the Empire get rid of the Senate completely. So the Empire could have to deal with tons of political backlash. If they tried to arrest the senator with no real evidence besides her father being involved with the rebels, which is a dumb reason to arrest someone if you want to keep the Empire afloat with the Senate. In the Kenobi show, they could have gotten a recorded transmission of him contacting Obi-Wan. If the Empire got this, they would have captured Bail and tortured him for information of where Obi-Wan is. That is way different than just knowing Bail is a rebel, which once again was not stated otherwise in episode 4. They even have a scene in the game that shows that Vader would not know Leia was involved by having Bail tell Proxy to cut contact the moment he suspected anything.
No.
Proxy! Cut transmission!
So I love the fact that he's trying to use something bad in one show that we really hate and say that is the same in this, even though he is ignoring context. It comes off really lazy, like you can't argue something on its own. Instead, you kind of try to corner anyone who disagrees with your take by almost saying, if you don't like this, then you must hate this then, without any dive in as to why one could be done well and the other poorly. It's a bad whataboutism. Also, this adds to the movie by justifying why they dissolved the Senate because they had too much power, which could have led to other senators becoming like Bail Organa and trying to form a rebellion. It also implies that after The Force Unleashed, Obviously, they closely observed Leia Organa's actions, which adds additional information on how they found evidence of Leia working with the Rebellion by Episode 4.
The entire plot of this game is centered around this guy Galen Merrick, aka Starkiller, who's actually Vader's secret apprentice. We play as him as he goes on various missions for Vader, including rallying all the main leaders of the still divided rebellion who pose an actual threat to the Empire should they ever band together. They do just that in this very game, thanks to Galen, but alas, it turns out to have all been a ploy by Vader that even we weren't privy to bring all of Palpatine's enemies together so that they could be crushed in one fell swoop. And among said rebels is, you guessed it, Bail Organa. And he, along with the rest of the rebels, are captured by Vader and brought to the first Death Star to be executed. That kind of fucks with a lot when you realize that the Organas were still official members of the Imperial Senate by the time of A New Hope. And as far as we could tell, Vader hadn't had any way of proving that they were working with the rebels until he managed to catch Leia with the Death Star plans. But I think seeing Bail with all the other rebel leaders making an official declaration of war against the Empire would be proof enough. I don't know, just a thought. Also, I don't really know why Palpatine would have the rebels taken to the Death Star, rather than just have Vader kill them all right then and there.
In the clip you show, there are subtitles where Sidious is saying, "Your very public and painful executions will serve an example to the rest of the galaxy," which makes sense, because this could have had a significant impact, as their deaths would deter anyone from wanting to form a rebellion. You're being disingenuous or not paying attention to the story.
Captured and brought to the Death Star, but Starkiller survived and had himself a little Force vision that told him what the Death Star was, and I guess, like, where to find it also. Because, like, he only just learned it existed, and it could be anywhere in space, but apparently they just show up in time to save the rebels, so that's pretty lucky.
He was able to find the Death Star through meditating and looking through his possible future, as well as his connection to Rom Koda, which is how they were to find the Death Star, much like how on Dagobah Luke finds out what happened to Han and where he is.
Through the Force, things you will see, other places, the future, the past, old friends long gone. Han? Leia! I saw City in the clouds.
And then Starkiller shows up and fights Vader and kicks the shit out of him because he's a game developer's overpowered OC.
It's acknowledged that Galen has grown considerably strong at this point of the game due to his previous fights with other powerful Jedi. He beats Vader because of his lightsaber style and the combination of his Force power. Also, not only was he strong in the Force, but he got intense training from the second most powerful man in the galaxy. It seems like you're just mad that your precious character lost a fight.
So strong that he can go toe-to-toe with the Emperor, and he actually wins.
Galen beats Sidious only because Sidious wanted to turn Galen to the dark side, as well as Sidious wanted a replacement for Vader, which meant he was holding back. This is actually very similar to how Vader tried to turn Luke to the dark side in Episode 6, and how trying to turn him led to his downfall in the fight.
Will not turn to the dark side. Then perhaps she will.
Palpatine doesn't die here is because he's in the original trilogy, and so they have Rom Koda say that it's not the Jedi way and to not give in to anger, you know, all that shit. It's basically just a retread of Return of the Jedi's final act, and it's frustrating to watch because it doesn't feel earned.
Throughout the game, it was believed Vader was training Galen to confront Palpatine, which did set up a possible fight with him later in the game.
Master Kota is dead.
Yes.
His lightsaber. My spies have located another Jedi. Kasdan Paratus is far more powerful than you. I do not expect you to survive, but if you destroy him, you'll be one step closer to your destiny.
The Emperor.
Yes.
Plead, Master.
Then you are ready to stand with me against the Emperor.
Killed me!
No. The Emperor wanted you dead. I salvaged your body and brought you here to be rebuilt.
Why?
The Emperor needed to believe you were dead. Now you can have your revenge and fulfill your destiny.
More importantly, you clearly haven't been paying attention to the story because this moment works as it shows Galen finally embracing the light and basically becoming a Jedi, as this story does focus on his transition from Sith to Jedi. It's why he has Jedi robes and wields a blue lightsaber by the time the Death Star mission begins.
I get why Luke refused to fight the Emperor in Return of the Jedi, because that was like the whole conflict of the third act, but here it doesn't really make sense or fit the context of the story, and it's frustrating to watch because this entire thing with the rebellion coming together is about overthrowing Palpatine and destroying the Empire, which you could do right here if you just struck him down.
As I said, this was to show Galen going to the light and how killing Palpatine would take him to the dark side, not to mention the fact that they thought Palpatine was beaten. It is possible for the rebellion to be successful with Palpatine captured. You again show this but don't understand the rebels' goal, which again shows that you aren't paying attention to the story.
I'm not saying I hate Starkiller as a character, but I do think he's OP as fuck and should never have been added into the canon at that time.
It's the Star Wars equivalent of a God of War game. They needed him to be overpowered for the gameplay, and even then in lore, he isn't overpowered compared to other characters, especially in the EU. I could think of a couple of characters who could give Starkiller a hard fight or outright beat him. Also, in both endings, Sidious kills him.
Go! Hurry! Protect the senators!
Excellent. Lord Vader was a broken shadow of his former self. I knew that one day you would replace him. You'll have just one final test. Destroy your ties to the Jedi, and at last you will be a Sith Lord.
You have betrayed your master and your allies.
I knew that you would betray me as well. And now, you have doomed yourself and your friends.
This game be some kind of non-canonical campaign exploring an alternate version of events, then fine, but that's not what they did. And to be honest, I think the existence of Starkiller has made online discourse surrounding Star Wars infinitely worse from every single direction. You can't talk about any character being overpowered without this motherfucker being brought up, and it's annoying because I don't think his power set is a good thing either. Also,
Starkiller has a strong connection to the Force and trained for at least 10 to 12 years with better resources than the average Jedi. Rey had nothing but a powerful connection to the Force, yet casually uses powerful Force abilities consistently. They are not the same.
Either. Also, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it's within Vader's character to groom a secret apprentice so that he can overthrow Palpatine. I think that's something he wanted to do back when Padme was alive and he had something to live for, and it's a passion that was reignited when he found out that he had a son. But for those 20 years where he thought he'd lost everything and everyone he'd ever loved, Palpatine was basically the only person Vader had left, as twisted as that is.
There is evidence which explains that Vader still wanted to achieve his goal of ruling the Empire, but couldn't because he was weaker than Palpatine. Not to mention there are 2 points in the game where it's explained that Vader used Galen to find the rebels.
Take them alive. The Emperor wants to execute them personally. You have done well, my apprentice.
You agreed to stay away!
I lied, as I have from the very beginning.
You never planned to destroy the Emperor.
Not with you, no.
He was meant to root out the rebels. His sacrifice will only inspire them.
But now we know who they are. I will hunt them down and destroy them. As you always intended, Master.
Also, why would Vader wanted to slave away his life for someone which failed to give him what he promised, aka save Padme? But hey, you admit that you could be wrong. Overall, this is an extremely poor take on The Force Unleashed, as you seemingly paid very little attention to the story, and your prioritization of story over gameplay is abysmal when applied to a hack and slash like The Force Unleashed. If you wanted to harp on exclusively the narrative aspects, you should have at least clarified that the gameplay still takes precedence, or you simply could have focused on its other mediums, such as the novel, or not do it on a collab where everyone else is an actual game reviewer. But yeah, this was my response to Sheev's take on The Force Unleashed. If you like these types of response videos, our channel has a playlist. Go check it out, and see you on the next video.